All right, in this video we're going to talk about propellers. Okay, so we've gone from batteries to ESCs to motors to propellers. Kind of going through the powertrain there a little bit. All right, and so propellers have a few different factors that you will really want to know for them. There's other things you might find out depending on your manufacturer and what information they give you, but you at least want to know some of these things here listed on the slide. You want to know the length or the diameter of the prop. You want to know the pitch of the prop, the number of blades, and the blade material. Those are some kind of key things for each propeller. Here's a picture on screen of a folding propeller. You may have seen something like that on a bigger drone, perhaps. We're going to go through each of these things and kind of explain what those variables mean and what they're referring to. I have some propellers here to try to show you on screen. Again, I have my camera issues while I'm recording this, unfortunately, so I'm going with the kind of sideways camera here, so I'll do my best. Let's switch over to that for a second, and we will go from there. Oops, that one's still... Okay, there we go. We'll zoom out a little bit here. All right, so propeller, right? There's a propeller. You can see that. Zoom out a little bit more, actually. Oops, sorry, wrong way. There we go. Here's a traditional propeller, or a typical propeller, I should say, you might find on a plane or a quadcopter or something like that of a larger type. Here's another propeller. Here's a propeller. Here's a propeller, right? Let me grab one more over here, one that we haven't looked at yet. And here's a propeller. Okay. So these cool, colorful ones, right? Way more cool looking than those boring black ones. But propellers come in all shapes and sizes and colors. So let's talk a little bit about what we're looking at when we look at propellers. Okay. Here's a good example. This propeller is still in the packaging. This is from a company called APC. Okay. If we look here, we can kind of, let's get that in front of the camera. Okay. This propeller is a 9 by 4.5 E. Okay. What does that mean, right? What are we talking about here? Okay. So this is one way that propeller manufacturers will describe a propeller. We'll talk about a couple ways they do that, but let's start with this way. It's maybe the easiest to read. Okay, 9 times or by 4.5 E. The first number here refers to the propeller size diameter-wise or length in inches, okay, in this case. So this propeller, okay, if I measured it from end to end, okay, there's one like that actually right here. So if I measure this, so I can try to hold this the right way here. If I measure this from end to end, so from here, it's hard to block the camera, from here to here, okay, it would be 9 inches in diameter or 9 inches length in this case, since it's just a two-bladed prop. Right? Diameter makes more sense when you're measuring something with more blades as far as a circle goes, but you can think of it kind of either way. A 9-inch long propeller if you measure from tip to tip. Okay, so that's our 9, part of the label here. All right, 9 by 4.5 E. Okay, so the second part of this number is the part that's a little more confusing to people sometimes. And the E is just for electric, so don't worry about that. 4.5, that's called the pitch of the propeller. So let's see if we can kind of hold these up to the camera a little bit here. Okay, so if we see this propeller, you see kind of that twist on the blade, right? This part's higher than this part. So you can kind of see that at a different angle there. Okay, the blade is not just flat, right? It's been kind of twisted up. And that is what's essentially the pitch of the propeller. As it spins through the air, so as the propeller is spinning through the air, the pitch kind of determines how much of a bite it takes out of the air as it's flying through the air, okay, as it's rotating. There's a little picture here I want to show you guys from the slideshow. Let's do that. Oh, sorry, wrong one again. Okay, a little picture from the slideshow here. Okay, on the left-hand side we have a 10 by 8 prop, and the right-hand side we have a 10 by 4 prop. So they're both 10-inch in diameter, for example, okay? But the one on the left, the 10 by 8, has a higher pitch than the one on the right, which is a lower pitch. And you can think of it this way. If I were to take a propeller, I have it related to a screw here as well. If I were to take a propeller or screw with an 8-inch pitch, and I were to spin it into something that was solid, so like air or something like that, okay? How far forward would it move with each rotation is basically what the pitch is describing. So if I were to take my propeller and do one full rotation with a 10 by 8 prop, theoretically through a solid, okay, that's not compressible or anything through a solid, that prop would move forward 8 inches for each rotation through the solid. Okay, whereas the one on the right would move forward 4 inches for each rotation through the solid. Okay, now in the air is compressible, so we get different amounts of compression on the air as the prop spins through. You don't always move forward 8 inches when you rotate your prop one time. In fact, you most likely don't ever do that. But if we measure in a solid, we can compare props of all types without regard to what air you're flying in, how dense is the air, how hot is it, how cold, all those different variables. If we just say it's going to go through a solid, this is how far it would go, then we can compare apples to apples. Okay, so the second number, again, let's go back to our .chem here. And here we go. Okay, so the second number here, the 4.5, 9 by 4.5, that means this has a 4.5 inch pitch. So for each rotation of this prop, okay, as it rotates through the air, it spins one time, it would move 4.5 inches through a solid. Okay, and that's its pitch. So that's one way to write that kind of nomenclature. 9 by 4.5 with a little x in between. They're both in inches in this case, 9 inches and 4.5 inches, and that's one way to do it. I could buy a 9 by 6 prop. It would be exactly the same length as this prop, the same diameter, but it would be more twisted. So this angle here would be more extreme, okay? More extreme of a tilt. It would be tilted up more just on the blade to give it higher pitch, more of a bite as it spins through the air. Okay? All right. So let's go ahead and look at, let's go back to this here. There's our pitch. Okay, so that's one really important thing from these variables. We have our length or diameter, and we have the pitch of the prop. Those things are probably some of the most important, most common ones people ask you about, right? What's the pitch of the blade? How big of a prop is it? Okay. Then we get to some of the other variables. So let's look at this page here. Okay. There's so many details that prop manufacturers give us. Sometimes it can be overwhelming. At least good manufacturers give you these details, right? But we've already gone over a couple of these already. So propeller diameter here is a 9-inch. The pitch is 4.5. Blade count, that's one thing that's important. How many blades does the prop have? This is a 2-bladed prop. Typically that's the lowest amount of blades you'll see in commercially available propellers, 2 blades, right? But you can also find 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 and 8 blade propellers that are out there. And so it's good to know how many blades are on the prop. If you don't have a picture of it, then you want to know how many from the product description. That's what it tells you there. We have material, carbon fiber composite material, just basically a plastic composite. Okay, how much the prop weighs, and then we have a couple other measurements here that we'll talk about in a second. Okay, but these first 4, diameter, pitch, blades, material, weight, first five specs there. Hopefully those make sense. You can have props made out of different materials like wood or carbon fiber, or a lot of them are just made out of plastic or some kind of petroleum product, basically. And so you may choose props based on some of those things, but it is important to understand what those numbers actually mean. Okay, blades, you often don't see more than two or 3 blades on like an airplane, for example. But with some quadcopters, you'll see 4, 5, 6, 8 blades even on some quadcopters, depending on their use case. Sometimes the quads that carry cameras, the cinema type quads, Cinewhoop, so I'm trying to think of the name, Cinewhoops, will have props with more blades on them. Okay, it just kind of depends on if you're going to be doing tricks with it or you're going to be kind of fly nice and stable. What kind of flight characteristics do you want can determine the number of blades on your prop as well, and efficiency. Okay, all right, we'll pause there. We'll come back to this.